In the toughest prisons, a harsh code exists. Those who harm children will never know peace. To uphold this rule, there's a group of vigilantes outside the prison walls, striking down with a punishment much harsher than the law could ever deliver. From calculated attacks to explosive acts of rage, these are the shocking stories of child molesters who met instant death behind bars. Join us as we dive into these chilling accounts, where justice takes on a new meaning. Number 10. Richard Huckle. Richard Huckle grew up as a quiet and solitary boy. At school, he was known for his reserved nature. But everything changed when he decided to join a school trip to Namibia at the age of 16. This sudden enthusiasm for helping communities abroad surprised everyone. After finishing school, Richard attended South Kent College and became a familiar face at Ashford Baptist Church, where he continued to be seen as a shy and unassuming young man. In 2005, after his college years, Richard took a year off and traveled to Malaysia. He seemed drawn to the country, returning often under the guise of assisting local churches and communities. By 2010, he had made Malaysia his permanent home, working as an English teacher and freelance photographer. His photographs showcased the lives of everyday people, helping him gain a reputation for wanting to make a positive impact. He even started an IT course at a local college, but never finished it. To most people, Richard appeared to be a kind-hearted individual. However, beneath this facade lay a much darker reality. In Malaysia, he exploited his roles as a teacher and photographer to get close to children. He didn't stop there. He also traveled to Cambodia and India, masquerading as a compassionate volunteer. In India, he convinced a pastor to allow him access to an orphanage, promising to take photos and create videos for them. No one suspected his true motives. Meanwhile, detectives in Australia were uncovering a horrifying online network known as the Love Zone, where terrible crimes against children were being plotted and shared. They traced it back to its leader, Shannon McCool, and discreetly took control of his account to identify other members. One name stood out: Richard Huckle. His posts were disturbing, boasting about the abuse he inflicted on children. In December 2014, while returning to the UK for the holiday season, Richard was apprehended at Gatwick Airport. Initially silent during questioning, he was allowed to stay at his parents' home on bail while the investigation continued. However, the truth couldn't hide for long. The day after his arrest, Richard confessed everything to his mother, leaving her horrified. She immediately contacted the police, begging them to take him in. When the police arrested him again, they charged Richard with 91 offenses, including creating abusive material and assaulting children. This time, bail was not an option. He was taken to prison while awaiting trial for his unimaginable acts. Richard's victims were as young as 6 months and up to 12 years old. Shockingly, he boasted about his crimes, sharing disturbing videos online with cruel captions. The prosecution revealed that Richard Huckle had harmed over 200 children and produced more than 200,000 videos for his own satisfaction. After a long trial on June 6, 2016, he was sentenced to life in prison for 22 of his offenses, with a minimum of 25 years before he could be considered for parole. Yet Richard's time in prison was cut short. On October 13, 2019, he was killed after being brutally attacked by another inmate, Paul Fitzgerald. This assault was premeditated and lasted over an hour before prison staff intervened. Fitzgerald was sentenced to a minimum of 34 years for his cold-blooded actions. Much like Richard Huckle, the next convict was trusted by his community. But unlike him, this man had powerful allies working in the dark, covering up his wrongdoings for years, until justice finally caught up with him in prison. Number 9. John Geoghan. For over 30 years, John Geoghan served in 6 parishes, during which he faced chilling accusations of inappropriate behavior with more than 130 young boys. In 1991, he was accused of misconduct at a local swimming pool, and by 2002, he was found guilty of inappropriately touching a 10-year-old boy. This conviction led to a prison sentence of 9 to 10 years. In 1998, Pope John Paul II removed Geoghan from his priestly duties following his conviction. The quest for justice became a long and painful battle for the victims. Initially, the Boston Archdiocese agreed to pay $30 million to 86 of Geoghan's victims, but as public interest waned, they reduced the settlement to just $10 million. Meanwhile, legal challenges mounted against Geoghan. One case was dropped when the accuser chose not to testify, while another was dismissed due to time limits on prosecution. Even when he died, unresolved accusations lingered. The public outrage over his case was intense. As a result, Geoghan was placed in protective custody at Sousa Baranowski Correctional Center in Lancaster. This, however, was where he met a brutal end. On August 23, 2003, Geoghan's dark past finally caught up with him in his prison cell when he was killed by another inmate, Joseph Lee Druce. Druce was serving a life sentence for a murder. He saw Geoghan as his target, declaring that since entering prison, he had marked him as a prize. Druce claimed his actions were purely his own, rooted in his traumatic childhood filled with abuse. Believing it was his duty to make child abusers pay, he took justice into his own hands. Rumors swirled that Druce may have been offered money to kill Geoghan, especially since Geoghan was seen as potentially evading true justice due to his connections with the Vatican. However, these theories have never been proven. On January 25, 2006, a jury rejected Druce's plea of insanity and found him guilty of murder, handing him a second life sentence without parole. Geoghan was laid to rest on August 28, 2003, in Holyhood Cemetery in Brookline, Massachusetts, a controversial burial for a man whose actions caused immense pain. While Druce meticulously planned his crime, another inmate faced a moral struggle against his instincts. Eventually, the weight of Geoghan's horrific actions drove him to intervene, highlighting the anger and grief that lingered in the wake of Geoghan's legacy. Number 8. Theodore Dyer. In 2014, a man named Steven Sanderson shocked everyone with his actions during his life sentence in prison. Sanderson had been locked up since 1991 for a terrible crime. He had killed his girlfriend. He faced a harsh punishment, life in prison without the possibility of parole. For years, he accepted his fate, living quietly in the shadows of his regret. Then, everything changed when he encountered Theodore Dyer. Dyer was despised by all, even the toughest criminals. He had committed the unthinkable crime of abusing a young child, and in prison, that made him the lowest of the low. To make matters worse, Dyer showed no remorse. Day after day, he bragged about his crime, justifying it with arrogance that cut deep into Sanderson's soul. Sanderson tried to drown out Dyer's twisted tales, but they gnawed at him. Every boast felt like a blade, igniting a storm of anger within him. The tension built until it was almost unbearable. On October 2, 2014, That storm exploded. In the early hours, when the prison was quiet, Sanderson seized his moment. Armed with nothing but a shoelace, he ended Dyer's life in their cramped cell. When it was done, he didn't hide what he had done. Instead, he calmly walked up to a guard and confessed, leaving no doubt about his actions. News of the incident spread like wildfire, igniting fierce debates about justice, morality, and the true meaning of life behind bars. For Sanderson, it was clear he had reached his breaking point, stepping into the role of a vigilante in a place where justice had long been abandoned. Number 7. David Bobb and Graham DeLuise Conti. Jonathan Watson, a man serving a life sentence for murder, made a shocking confession in 2020. He revealed that he had killed 2 other inmates while imprisoned in California. In a letter, he explained why he committed these acts, saying he felt pushed to protect others from harm. Watson had recently been moved to a lower security facility, where he was placed in a dorm-style living arrangement instead of a private cell. He called this transfer a mistake, especially after one inmate, whom he referred to as Molester 1, moved into his area. This man, a convicted offender against children, openly watched children's television shows, which Watson found deeply upsetting. Unable to tolerate this situation, Watson asked prison staff to return him to his previous, more secure unit, but his request was ignored. The next day, when he saw Molester 1 watching those same shows again, Watson snapped. He took a cane and attacked him. As he was on his way to confess to a guard, he encountered another inmate who had been convicted of child trafficking. Feeling it was his duty to act, Watson struck again. The prison later confirmed that the 2 inmates, David Bobb and Graham DeLuise Conti, both serving life sentences for crimes against children, were dead. Following the incidents, Watson was placed in isolation, and an investigation is currently underway. In his letter, Watson showed no remorse for his actions. He said he felt he had nothing to lose and believed he was protecting others. In fact, he even mentioned he would be willing to plead guilty to the killings. The incident has raised serious questions about prison safety and the decision to lower Watson's security level. As investigations continue and no charges have been filed yet, the case has sparked intense criticism of the prison system and its handling of dangerous criminals. Air travels. Number 6. Mark Squires. At San Quentin State Prison in Marin County, a 70-year-old inmate named Mark Squires was found dead in his cell on September 18, 2024. Authorities are investigating his death as a possible homicide. Squires was serving a life sentence for a shocking crime against a child and had spent 24 years behind bars. On the day he was found, prison staff responded to an alarm from Squires' cell, which he shared with his 36-year-old cellmate, Gustavo Lopez. When they arrived, Squires was unresponsive. Despite their attempts to save him, he passed away shortly after. After the incident, Lopez was moved to a secure area for questioning. Investigators from the prison, the local district attorney's office, and the coroner are all working together to uncover the truth behind Squires' death. Lopez has been in prison since 2020, serving a 13-year sentence for assault and false imprisonment. The specifics of what happened in that cell remain shrouded in mystery. In a stark contrast, another case has surfaced where a vigilante revels in the thrill of delivering their own brand of justice, shedding light on the growing tensions within prison walls. The tension is palpable, and the search for answers continues. Air travels. Number 5. Andrew Thompson. At Florida's Blackwater River Correctional Facility, 35-year-old Andrew Alexander Thompson was serving a long sentence of 45 years. His crimes were horrifying, involving secretly filming children and committing disturbing acts with animals, with victims as young as 2 years old. In the same prison, 41-year-old Angel V was serving time for a violent past that included armed robbery, aggravated battery, and even murder. Their lives intersected in a way that would end in tragedy. On July 27, 2022, V took drastic action. Using a torn bedsheet, he brutally ended Thompson's life in their shared cell, showing no signs of remorse. Afterwards, he calmly approached a prison officer and confessed, saying he had killed Thompson and that there was one less problem to worry about. Following the incident, V was moved to Santa Rosa County Jail, where he is currently held without bail, waiting for the legal system to decide his fate. It is clear that V needs psychological help, but the question lingers about what he did to Thompson's remains, an act that adds yet another layer to the tragedy of this story. Number 4. Stephen Paul Patchen. In May 2024, in a shocking court appearance, inmate Kyle J. Kellis confessed to strangling his cellmate, Stephen Paul Patchen, at Lino Lakes Prison. Kellis, already serving a life sentence for a different crime, pleaded guilty to this brutal act that took place in October 2023. The victim, 63-year-old Patchen, was serving nearly 20 years for horrific crimes against children. Tensions grew between the two inmates after a heated argument the night before the attack. Patchen made a comment about a young relative of Kellis, sparking the deadly confrontation. In a fit of rage, Kellis seized Patchen from his bunk and strangled him. After the act, he went to disturbing lengths to hide his crime. Kellis dressed Patchen in clean clothes, laid him on the bed, covered him with a blanket, and arranged his body as if he were peacefully asleep. He even went to bed himself, leaving no immediate signs of the horror that had taken place. The next day, Kellis casually informed a guard about the incident, leading to the grim discovery of Patchen's lifeless body in the cell. Under a plea deal, Kellis will receive an additional 16-year sentence to run alongside his existing life sentence. Since the murder, he has been transferred to Oak Park Heights Prison, known for its tight security. In the dangerous world of prisons, where justice takes on its own form, some inmates seek out those who harm children. Kellis was one of them, forever marked by his violent choices. Number 3. Ashley Brophy. On March 9, 2023, Ashley Brophy met a violent fate at the hands of 43-year-old Evan James Martin. Brophy, a convicted child abuser, faced a harsh form of justice when Martin took the law into his own hands. Entering Brophy's cell, Martin locked him in a deadly chokehold, bringing him to the ground. He tightened his grip and wrapped his legs around Brophy, increasing the pressure until Brophy lost consciousness. To ensure he wouldn't survive, Martin pressed his full weight down on Brophy's throat, sealing his fate. Brophy, a 40-year-old man with intellectual disabilities, had recently pleaded guilty to luring a 9-year-old girl from a park in Doubleview. Though the court had yet to determine his sentence, Martin decided to enact his own vengeance. Martin was no stranger to violence. He was already serving an 11-year sentence for attempting to kill another inmate who had also harmed a child back in 2020. He had even crafted weapons for that attack. When asked about Brophy's death, Martin showed no remorse. He admitted to his actions and expressed pride in what he had done. For this brutal act, Martin received a life sentence, with a minimum of 21 years before he can apply for parole. While others who punish child abusers have come forward, the identity of the person who dealt the final blow to Brophy has remained a mystery. Number 2. James Palmucci. On the morning of October 26, 2020, prison staff in Charlotte County discovered 48-year-old inmate James Palmucci with fabric tightly wrapped around his neck. They had gone to inform him about a scheduled court appearance. Palmucci was facing 83 serious charges related to child abuse, including terrible crimes against children as young as 12. Investigators had uncovered disturbing videos on his phone featuring one of his victims. Authorities ruled that Palmucci took his own life, but many thought differently. Why would he do that when he was already behind bars? The prison staff appeared skeptical about his death, fearing they might face backlash if it turned out to be a case of violence within the facility. This suspicion has led many to believe that someone might have taken matters into their own hands. And then there's the next inmate in this story, another convicted child abuser whose actions are even more shocking. The atmosphere inside that prison was heavy with tension, raising questions about what truly happened and who might be responsible. Number 1. Mario Waters. A man from Arkansas, sentenced to life in prison for his involvement in trafficking a 6-year-old girl, has died after being attacked by another inmate. The 35-year-old Mario Waters was found unresponsive at a maximum security federal prison in Terre Haute, Indiana. Despite efforts to revive him, he was later pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. Waters had been serving his sentence since April 2023. He admitted to playing a role in a terrible crime that harmed a young girl, who in 2018 was taken to the hospital with signs of serious health issues related to abuse. The girl bravely told investigators that Waters was one of the people who hurt her. She recounted a chilling encounter where Waters met another man, DeMarcus George, at a hotel where the abuse occurred. For years, no one could fully grasp the suffering this little girl endured. And just as it was impossible to predict her horrendous fate, neither could anyone foresee how or when justice would catch up with those who commit such heinous acts. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to check out more videos we've made for you, click on one of them on the screen or check out the channel. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. It really helps a lot and means the world to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.